It says find the inverse of the function on the given domain. Okay, the given domain is this part here. That's your given domain. So you only want x's that are 14 or greater, right? Because it's going from 14 to infinity. Now, remember that when you're doing these, f of x is the same thing as y. So we have y equals x minus 14 squared. Now, when you're doing an inverse function, what you do is you put the x where the y is and the y where the x is to begin with. And then you solve this for y. Okay? So I'm going to put this all in black now so I can use different colors to solve it. And I'm trying to solve for y, which is stuck inside those parentheses. And the parentheses have a square on them. So the first thing I'm going to do is square root both sides. The square root and the square cancel each other out. So on the right side, you just have y minus 14. However, when you're taking the square root of some number, you have to consider both the positive and the negative of that square root. Because remember, when you're looking for the square root of a number, you're looking for a number that when you square it, it'll give you the x. So like if it was the square root of 9, there's actually two possible answers, 3 and negative 3, because 3 squared is 3 times 3, which equals 9. But also negative 3 squared, which is negative 3 times negative 3, is also positive 9. So there's really two possible values for that square root of x. It could be positive or it could be negative. So you have to leave that on there. Now, I'm still trying to solve for y, so the next thing I need to do is get rid of this 14, so I'm going to add 14 to both sides so that that cancels out. And I'm just left with y. Now over here, the best way to write this is 14, oops, plus or minus the square root of x. You could write it plus or minus the square root of x. Here, I'll write it over here. You could write plus or minus the square root of x and then minus 14. But unless you're really careful and you make sure you cut off that square root sign, it might look like it's the square root of x minus 14. So if the 14 is not under the radical, algebraically, it's better if you stick it out in front. So this is what y is, but remember, it's the inverse function. So now you take this out and put f negative 1 of x in its place, and then that equals 14 plus or minus the square root of x. However, it did say find the inverse function over the given domain, which means you don't want anything less than 14. So this, it has to be from 14 to infinity. And then on the inverse function, how am I going to say this? No matter what x is, when you subtract it, you're going to be reducing 14 by that amount. So you don't want it to get smaller. 14 is your actual smallest value that you can have. And if you subtract something from it, then you're going to be going smaller than that 14 up there. So you can't have the negative part. You have to take the negative part out. So my answer should just be the 14 plus the square root of x. Take out the negative because that will give you something smaller than 14. And I already went in here and typed it in and got the green box. So that was number 14. How many are there on this thing? Oh, there's 18. I got 4 more to go.